Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Crypto Watch. Good evening, everyone. And if you are here live with me, don't forget to click that like or love button so that I know that you are here live with me. Right. So as all of you are streaming in, right? Today we're going to talk about this topic, right? That actually, we have been talking about for the past few weeks, right? So basically, right, whether this is the start of the crypto winter, right? With now that we are in July, right, we have completed the last quarter, right? And if we actually, look at the last quarter results, right, which is the second quarter of 2022, right, it was actually the steepest quarterly loss, right? And it was the steepest quarterly loss in 11 years, right? It's not the worst, but it has been the worst loss in quite some time, right? So, let's, delve into it and, see what has transpired, right, over these past few weeks or so, right? And what is to come, right, for cryptocurrency. Right, and if you are here live with me, right, don't forget to click this like button, right, as what I mentioned just now, so that I know that you are here live with me. Right, and before I start the session proper, as always, let me do a brief introduction about myself. So I'm the trade engineer, or TTE for short. I have 6 to 7 years of experience of trading experiences. I've traded numerous instruments such as stocks, futures, forex, and cryptocurrency. I help numerous aspiring traders unlock the best trade and unleash the trading potential within them. All this using just some simple yet effective techniques. And some disclaimers down here, right? For the accuracy information, ensure as far as possible, right? No responsibility taken from my side for any loss of inconvenience created by any omission or error. The ideas, suggestions, examples, and other information presented here are just for reference and educational purposes only. The presentation tonight is also not intended in any way to give trading advice or recommendations to buy or sell any trading instrument. And me, the trade engineer, shall not have any liability, right, for any loss or expense whatsoever. Last but not least, all copyrights reserved. Right. So with that out of the way, right, let's talk about this topic proper, right? And to actually give you some background, right, let's look at the quarterly result, right? As I mentioned at the start of this video, right, the second quarter result is out with us finishing June and approaching July, right? We are already in the first week of July. So the June, right, basically the last quarter result, the second quarter of 2022 was actually quite a bad result. And let's look at that result in more detail. So I actually consolidated, some past results, right? This for Bitcoin, right? For all the different quarters, right? Since 2014, right? So you can see, there were some, staggering losses, right? In Q1 of 2014, right? It immediately rebounded the next quarter, right? And so on and so forth, right? In fact, we also saw that, in 2018, right? 2018 was also somewhat of a crypto winter, right? There was quite a bit of a lot of cryptocurrency actually fell during that time. And you can see that the first quarter result of 2018 was negative 49.89%. The Q4 result was also quite bad, negative 42.54%. But fast forward to today, right? Fast forward to today, the second quarter of 2022, right? Second quarter 2022 is actually shown here, right? And it is negative 56.27%, right? It's even worse than what happened in 20, right, for both quarters. Right? In fact, you look at this whole chart here, right? This is the worst quarter since 2014. Right, so to offer some more context, right, this has been the steepest quarterly loss in 11 years, right, more than a decade, with a 56.27% drop, right, between this period of time, the second quarter, April to June 2022. It is the second worst quarterly result since inception, right? Second worst. So there was a period that was even worse. And which period was that? that period was actually, very, very long time ago. And you have to go back in memory, go back in time, right? Back in 2011, right? Third quarter. At that time, Bitcoin was only like, $15 and $5, right? At that time, Bitcoin actually fell 15.5 to 5.14, right? That was the time when, Bitcoin was not even 3 digits or 4 digits, right? Or even 5 digits, right? So it is a long time ago, right? In fact, right, this is like, as what I point out, this was worse than the drastic price drop in 2018, right? Where we just saw that, first quarter and fourth quarter 2018, Bitcoin actually lost 49.89% and 0.54%, right? So like 2018, right? If you have been, doing crypto investing or trading at that time, you have known that, that was the period of time where it was the known as the Great Crypto Crash, right, or the Bitcoin crash, right, where we saw many cryptocurrencies being sold off, starting from the very first month, right, January 2018. Right, so we look at the market cap, right, the market capitalization of all cryptocurrencies. I think that has been in the news recently as well. It has slipped below that 1 trillion. So that is something that is something that you might know about, right? Because it means that the whole cryptocurrency market, right, is actually slipping as a whole. Right. So what is crypto winter, right? That is our topic for tonight. Whether this is the start of crypto winter or are we already in the midst of a crypto winter, right? So first of all, we need to figure out what is crypto winter, right? So over here, this article from Forbes actually tries to offer a definition of crypto winter, right? And this in this article, it actually mentioned that the phrase crypto winter seems to have come from the HBO series Game of Thrones, right? So if you watch Game of Thrones, this might have sound something familiar to you, right? So if you recall, right, in the show, the motto of the House of the Stark was "Winter is coming," and that considered to be a warning that the lasting conflict could descend on the land, right, of Westeros at the time. Right. So in that same context, right, basically, crypto winter here means that basically you should be prepared for any chaos to sweep over the market, right? When the bear basically starts to come in, right? And it might come without any warning, right? So that is really just a literal translation from the HBO series itself, right? The Game of Thrones itself. So we define it more literally, right? Crypto winter is just basically when prices contract and remain low for an extended period, right? So basically the question here, right, is whether cryptocurrency prices, right, will continue to remain low, right, in this for a long period of time, right? It is considerably low now, right? You look at Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin has been trading below 20,000, right? And just a few months ago, it was trading at 60,000, right? So whether it would continue to remain, below 20,000 for a long period of time, right? I think that is something that you might be concerned about because, after all, Bitcoin, sets the motion for other cryptocurrencies as well. Right, and this article itself also talks about whether, right, crypto might come roaring back, right? Whether it might, make a comeback, right? Will make a huge bounce back to the upside. So in this article, right, what it mentioned, right, is that some experts says that stronger cryptos shall prevail, right, because it's a test, of which cryptocurrencies are strong enough to survive this turmoil. So this particular analyst, right, he said that basically he doesn't expect crypto to come roaring back, right? It's what it did in 2021, right? Because the context now is different, right? We have that Fed monetary policy, right, that is looming in the background, and that has become a headwind, right, for this asset class, right? But despite that, he is still a bit optimistic. He still thinks that the crypto market might eventually still rise from the ashes, right? In fact, some investors actually love this pullback, right? And some of them have actually doubled down the market for the long term, right? So some investors view it as an opportunity to buy, right? They are banking on this crypto revival once all these global macroeconomic or political crises, right, actually settle, right? So it really depends on your time frame, right? Whether how long you can hold, right? Will you want to hold it for the next 10 years? Will you want to hold it for the next 5 years? Or can you, do you not want to actually hold it for long, right? You actually want to hold more cash. So this very, very depends on how long, right, you want to hold. Like essentially, that's their conclusion here. So there really isn't much of a conclusion here, right? So let's look at more articles that may offer some additional context, right, of what is happening in the crypto market. So over here, right, we have an article from Bloomberg, right? In fact, here this article, right, is asking about whether this is the biggest test for crypto yet, right? As what we saw, right, it used to be a 2 trillion market. Now it has dropped below 1 trillion, right? And this is rattling the whole crypto market. Right, so at first, crypto market, right, had that all for one ethos, right, and that was its biggest draw, right? But it's also, right, based on this ethos, right, that is also threatening its survival now, right? Panic is spreading, and that this same ethos is the biggest threat yet, right? So if we rewind back a little, right, earlier this year, right, there was a risk-off bout of selling, right, and this was triggered by the Fed, right, raising interest rates, and that actually caused people to sell off, assets that they think are risky. So Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, they're all considered risky, and all these were being sold off. But in this same regard, it has also exposed this web of interconnectedness, right? And this actually looks like the tangle of derivatives, right, that actually brought down the global financial system, like back in 2008, right? So people are drawing some parallels, right, between this crypto crash and what happened in the global financial crisis in 2008. Right, so as we all know, right, as Bitcoin slipped, right, a lot of alternate coins also fell, right? We had the Terra that fell, right? Eventually ended with a bank run, right? So-called bank run, right, where the tokens, right, actually became worthless, right? And crypto collateral, right, that seems to be valuable, to support loans, actually became deeply discounted or illiquid, right? So we have heard a lot of news, right, about all those seemingly invincible, right, hedge fund or very big hedge fund, and many high-profile lenders all liquidating or having some trouble, right? So basically, right, it all boils down to some of these points, right? Greed, overuse of leverage, and some they just believe, right, that the number will just go up, right? So all these are very common, right, that before any bubble, and this is what this article is exactly saying, right? In fact, right, as we all know, cryptocurrency is in a largely unregulated industry, right? And the boundaries are pretty blurred sometimes, right? And they promise a lot of fear safe, right? But we have seen that all these fear safe have also failed to work at times. So let's look at this chart that was provided, right? Basically, you can see, right, it has came up quite rapidly in the past, right? But the drop is also pretty unprecedented, right? At least for this particular time period, right? So you can see this drop is also very steep as well, right? So in the article, right, it also mentioned that there is that possibility, right, of inability of lenders to meet margin costs, right? As we saw, a lot of for example, the Three Arrows Capital, right, it is in the risk of liquidation because it is unable to meet margin costs, right? So that's pointed out here, right? As the digital asset prices plunge, like all these big companies actually revealed, major troubles, right, and caused a liquidity crunch, right, and precisely because of that one for all ethos, right, that interdependence in the crypto market. Right. So this particular analyst, right, he actually said that this downturn looks far more like a traditional financial deleveraging. Right. Right. All these words that people use, right, what you can similarly apply to a functioning but overheated traditional financial sector. Consumer confidence, perception of bad actors all play a role, right? But basically what is happening now, right, is basically due to over leverage and poor risk taking, right? And this professor also jumped in, right? He also said that this rise of crypto prices, right? That whole spectacular rise, right, that we saw for the past year, right, in 2021, most likely, right, it was triggered by leverage speculation, right? So people were over leveraging, right? At that time, it worked out well because the price was still continuing to go up, right? And interest rate was low, right? That's what they mentioned here. So that actually helped, people, to actually leverage more, and when interest rate actually went up this year because of the Fed, that created problems for them. Right, so it's what I mentioned here, right? So the interest rate rise, so that it came about this deleveraging cycle, right? And this actually unwinded the prices more rapidly than they rose, right? So what we saw here, right, is that this effect is actually very amplified in crypto, right? Because of how speculation concentrates in the crypto market. And with that, right, there might come more regulation, right, for the crypto market, right? In fact, right, there were some rules that were announced in spring, right, but they might have to change, right? With what happened, in the past few weeks or so, right? Especially when we saw that Terra collapsing just like that, and with any other crypto fears in time to come, might actually pave way for tougher rules, right? So if basically crypto market, right, one of the key advantages is that it is unregulated, right? And if you put in more regulation, right, it might become safer, but you're also taking away a comparative advantage for the crypto market, right? And so with that, right, some people are saying that market rebound for the crypto market might not come so soon, right? So analysts say that as I mentioned just now, right, that doesn't seem to be a very strong catalyst, right, to reverse the cycle, the bearish cycle for crypto market, right? He actually mentioned that his research, right, found that smart investor got out first, and there are some individuals who bought all the way down, right? They average down, continue as they drop more, it buy more, and continuously lost money. So that might really happen, right? If crypto continue to crash downwards. Right, and if we look at the funding landscape, right, for cryptocurrency this time around, right, it also offers some context over here in this article, right? So many startups, right, because it came out the last freeze, which was 2018, right, actually sought out venture capital funding, right, as a more traditional route to raising cash, right, as compared to what they did because they learned from what happened in 2018. Right, so a lot of these biggest players actually have vast reserve of hard currency, right? And this actually help them to work on growing new blockchains, building decentralized media platforms. But the recent end of this bull market, and in fact going to a bear market, right, means that they are spending that cash much faster than it's been coming in. And that might be a problem if that continues to be the trend. So we look at this particular chart, right? These venture capitalists, right? You can see the chart of how much they have invested like over the years, right? Since 2018. And you can see, whoa, there's a spike up here, even in 2022, right? Last quarter, it actually dropped quite significantly, but you can see for the past few quarters, it has been rising phenomenally, right? So you can see that actually there is still quite a bit of funding, right, sloshing around, right? Here there is some examples given, right? There's this debut, right, of this crypto fund in March, right? Coinbase co-founder also launched, a 2.5 billion vehicle. But right, although it could be more careful, right, it still has to be spent somewhere. And we all know that now this company has become mature for many years, right? And what these analysts say, right, as the tide goes out, there are going to be a lot of people who are found to be naked, right? So this is a very good analogy, right? Basically, it might spell more trouble down the road, right? If this continues, right? If the prices of cryptocurrency continues to come down. Right, let's look at some recent news, right, for this week, right? So as we all know, right, if you've been following the Bitcoin prices, you have seen that, Bitcoin actually fell below 19,000 again, right, once again, just last Thursday, right? Right, as Bitcoin still remains under pressure, right? So over here in this article, it actually talks about all the macroeconomic factors, right, that have been affecting stocks as well, right? And we probably already know by now, like inflation, right? Inflation is high, and there's a fear of, and we have heard of all the news of all those funds, like crypto funds, crypto exchanges facing problems, right? Especially that Three Arrows Capital, right, that we talked about last week as well. And let's look at another article, right, talking about some recent news for this week, right? Okay, offer what has happened in the past week. So basically this week, right, Bitcoin, right, and Ethereum, right, the two largest market cap cryptocurrencies, right, actually erased their gains for this week, right, and 3L Capital actually filed for bankruptcy. So we saw that there was a short rebound, right, for Bitcoin, Ethereum last week, or rather this week, right, but it actually fell back down, right? In fact, if we look at the prices today, right, Bitcoin is about 19,000 once again, right? Several leading cryptocurrencies also posted notable losses, right? So there's Polygon, right? Solana, Polkadot, right? So on and so forth, all by double-digit percentage drop. Right, so you look at the top 30 cryptocurrencies that they all posted losses of double-digit percentage figures, right? Except for a few, right, over here. And right, Three Arrows Capital, right, unfortunately, it's unable to survive through this whole turmoil, right? This week itself, it also ordered to basically liquidate, right? And it has actually filed for bankruptcy, right? In fact, if you read the local news today, right, you can also see that the founder, right, who has some houses in Singapore, he was also forced, to actually sell one of his good class bungalows, right? So, it's basically he's already there's a sure sign, right, that he's already experiencing some trouble, right, in the company. Right, and that Bitcoin bear run, right? You can see that if we look at some figures right down here, right, we have this article actually consolidated the outflows for Bitcoin specific fund, and it actually totaled about 453 million, right? What does this mean, right? If you look at it, it actually roughly equal to all inflows over the past 6 months, right? So the outflow in 1 week is equal to the inflow for the past 6 months, right? It is the highest dollar amount ever, right? So you can see that many people are rushing for the exit, and that's not very good, right, for Bitcoin, right? It might mean that people are just rushing to sell off whatever holdings that they have. Right, and if we look closer, right, that last week outflow was the third largest on record in terms of assets under management, right, and that is about 1.2% of the entire assets under management, right, of all funds tracked by tracked by CoinShares, right. So this is very significant, right, because the worst outflow, right, 1.6 was recorded during 2018 time, right, during the bear market at that time. right? And we also saw that the share itself, right, for Coinbase actually also fell, right? As analysts start to downgrade this stock, right? And analysts will say that additional measures might be required to stem future losses, right? The Securities Exchange Commission, right, in the US also noted that Bitcoin, in his view, is a commodity, not a security, right? And he thinks that Bitcoin should be regulated under this particular commission, right? CFTC. In fact, right, SEC, right, the Security Exchange Commission in the US also rejected grayscale application for a Bitcoin ETF, right? Because it's trying to protect investors, right, from it, right? Saying that it's not done enough, right? But the grayscale CEO actually filed a lawsuit against this SEC, right? Right. So as we mentioned just now, right, this has been the second worst quarterly performance. But like with all these negative news, right, it's interesting, right, to note that that all these Bitcoin whales, right, all these people who are have a lot of Bitcoin in their stake, right, such as this MicroStrategy CEO, right, and El Salvador, right, president, right, are all buying the dip. Right. So should you actually buy the dip, right? Is this the bottom, right? As what you mentioned, talked about last week, right? Whether is this the bottom, or is this the start of a longer period of time of bearishness, right, in the crypto market? Right, and to answer that, right, I don't have a silver ball, but we can, look at that technical analysis, right, for cryptocurrencies from the price chart, as all these might offer some clues, right, of what is to come, right. So this is just some background, to offer some context to all of you, right, and hopefully you have managed to go up to speed, right, if you haven't followed the news for the past week, right, for crypto. Right, but at this point, right, don't forget to click that like or love button, right, if you're enjoying the sharing so far. Right, and let's go into the technical analysis proper, right? And before I talk about what's the future, let's look at the past week, right? What has happened, right, for Bitcoin in the past week? So let's take a look at what transpired. And to jog everyone's memory, right, let me just do a quick recap, right? What are the 7 things that I mentioned last week, right, for Bitcoin? Right. If you want further details, you can check out last week's video, or you can look at, check out my TikTok video, right? So over here, right, last week, right, I mentioned about 7 things to watch. First of all, the daily chart, like we talk about this downtrend line and the descending channel, right? So we did talk about that, the price of Bitcoin is still within the descending channel and still trading below that downtrend line. So, on the whole, right, on the longer term trend, right, it is still a bit bearish. This horizontal support, 17,500 to 17,600, it has been trading above it and have bounced off it. So that could be a positive sign, right, if this is strongly supported. That horizontal resistance down here on the chart as well, about 28,000 to 29,000, right? So it's something to watch out for, right, if the price actually breaks for the upside. But of course, we didn't see that this week, and I'll share more later. Right, and the 50 SMA and the 200-day SMA, right, as shown here, right, it's on a daily chart. So you can see the 50 SMA is still below the 200 SMA. The gap is still very big, and price is also trading below these 2 lines, right? So that is still an indication of continued bearishness, right, at least in the mid to long term. The RSI here, right, the RSI, right, we mentioned that it has just bounced out, of the oversold region last week, right? That's for last week, right? Let's see what's happened this week, right? So the positive sign, right, was mentioned last week. And we also talked on the daily chart, right? The MACD, right? So similarly, MACD, right, also was turning up. So that is an indication that it could turn towards the upside, right? That's what I mentioned last week. We also look at the shorter time frame, right? The 4-hour chart week, right? And we talk about this short-term uptrend line and the immediate horizontal resistance, right? So you mentioned that a breakout of either, like whether it broke below the uptrend line or break above the immediate resistance, might indicate like which direction Bitcoin might follow through, right? So that's what I mentioned here. Right, and let's take a look, right? What has happened ever since, right? For the past 7 trading days, has anything changed or is staying still the same? So first of all, right, let's look at the daily chart, right? And this is the updated daily chart, right, with the updated prices. So the downtrend line and the descending channel, right, you can see that is basically no change, right? It is still trading within this descending channel shown by these 2 black lines, right? The downtrend line is shown by here. You can see nothing much has changed, right? It is still within this channel below the downtrend line, and bearish momentum might still continue, right? As long as it's still within this channel. Horizontal support, also no change. It is still trading above this line, but you can see there's some slight retracement, right, in the past few days or so, right? So basically, I think this was the time last Sunday we talked about, and it has since retraced back down ever since, right? So, but it's still trading above this horizontal support, right? So this support is still supported. Right, and on the daily chart as well, we had the 50 SMA and 2-hour day SMA, right? No change to that, right? You can see the 50 SMA is still below that 2-hour SMA. The negative gap has widened somewhat with that retracement, right? But you can see the price is still trading below both of them, both these lines, right? So there is still an indication of continued bearishness, right, in the mid and long term. RSI, right? So last week we talked about RSI bouncing up from the oversold region, but it has crossed back down and it is touching the oversold region again, right? So let's see how this pan out in this week. And MACD, right? MACD wise is still still positive, right? Still in the positive region, right? You can see it's still in the positive region, but it has done a bit less positive this week, right? That's not good, right? If it turns negative, right, it might become a sign that it might turn for the bearish side. And for the 4-hour time scale, right, let's take a closer look as well. So for a 4-hour time scale, we did draw this immediate resistance line, right, and this short-term uptrend line, right? So what happened, right? You can see that it actually tried to break past this immediate resistance, right? But it didn't close above, right, on the 4-hour time scale, right? Eventually, it broke that uptrend line, right, the immediate uptrend line, and ever since then, it has fallen back down, right? So that basically what I've written here, right? So basically you can see that once it actually broke either side, right? If actually it breaks this immediate resistance convincingly, right, it might fall, went back up, but it didn't. But it broke this convincingly, so it fell all the way back down. Right. So to summarize, right, last week we did talk about some trading plan, right? So I did offer some suggestions of what you want to, what you can consider doing if you are a short-term trader, right? So I offer either a long or short entry, right, over here, right? Either if you are thinking of going long, right, you can watch for the immediate resistance about 21,700 to 21,800 to break convincingly, and price to be remain supported by that short-term uptrend line, right? And you can take profit at these levels, right? Or you can short, right? Provided prices actually rebound a little bit, right? That resistance point, right? And you can consider a short at that point. But let's with what happened for this week, if you actually followed this plan, you might not have entered any trade, right? Because the immediate resistance, right, at this level didn't break convincingly, and the price actually broke that short-term uptrend line, right, pretty convincingly, right? It's what we saw earlier. So yep, you didn't enter any trade, but you also prevented yourself from making any losses. Right. So with that, what does the future hold for Bitcoin? Right. We do delve into this in deeper. Right. Do give this video, right? Don't forget to give a like or a love, right? If you are enjoying the sharing so far, right? So that through algorithm can actually push this out to more people who might benefit from my sharing. Right, and let's delve into the future now in greater detail. Right. So first of all, let's look at that daily time chart, right, or daily time scale. Right. So let's break it down one by one. Right. So first of all, right, I have this same the downtrend line and the descending channel. Right. It's a bit different from previously. Right. It's on a more you can go back and see, but it's actually drawn a bit differently from what I did in the just now. Right. It's more reflective of the current situation. Right. So that's how it's drawn now. So you can see that now it's trading below that downtrend line, right? It's tested numerous times, right, over here, right? And but the price, right, is still forming a lower high, right, and a lower low, right? So that is still a downtrend, right? And it's still it's still trading within this descending channel, right? So this bearish momentum might still continue, right, unless it breaks out of this, basically out of this descending channel. Horizontal support, no change to that. It is still at this level of 17,500 to 17,600, right? This was what we saw last week, but it bounced off this line and it retraced back down. So, it is approaching this line once again. Hasn't really touched it yet, right? But if it actually tests this line and breaks down convincingly, right, then we could be looking at this lower channel line, right, as the next support, right? And if this breaks as well, then we could be headed for even lower support levels. Right? So that's something to watch out for, right? If it breaks to the downside. But conversely, right? Conversely, if it breaks to the up, right, we could be watching for this level, right? About 28,000 to 29,000, right, on the D chart, right? So this is a level to watch out for, right? If this downtrend line actually breaks convincingly. Right, MACD wise, right, on the daily chart, this MACD has actually, as what I mentioned, it remains in the positive region, right? But the positive gap is narrowing. So if the positive, it remains positive, right? That might indicate that bullish momentum might still continue. But if it's crossover and comes back to the negative region, right, then we could be seeing some signs of bearishness. Right, and let's take a look at closer detail, right, on the shorter time frame, right, on the 4-hour time frame. And let's go through all these indicators one by one. So first of all, right, this is the 4-hour time frame, and we have another downtrend line, right? This is a shorter term downtrend line, right? You can see that it is a valid line, right? It is drawn by connecting all these highs together, right? Even the recent high here, right? You can see it's approaching this downtrend line very recently, right? But price is still trading below this line, right? And it hasn't actually broke above this line yet, right? So it's something to watch out for, right? If you're on a shorter time scale, right? If you're trading on a shorter time scale, you might want to see whether it would successfully break above this line convincingly, right? That might be the confirmation to turn bullish, at least in the short term. Right. Just now we talk about the support level is 17,500, right? But there is a more immediate support level if we look at a shorter time frame, and this is at 18,800. It has been tested here, right, and very recently here, right, just today. So this is another, the immediate support you might be watching out for on the shorter time scale. And if it is convincingly supported, right, that could be the confirmation, right, that buyers, there are plenty of buyers supporting at this particular level. Right, and if it breaks the downtrend line, right, and this remains convincingly supported, and price make bounce to the upside, we could be watching, right? We could be watching for this immediate resistance level. And this immediate resistance level is pretty interesting, right? Because this is the level that was previously the support in the past, right? You can see that it was the support here, it was the support here, the support here. And in fact, if you look at a lot of articles, about Bitcoin, they will have talked about Bitcoin at 20,000 being the support, and breaking it is something like it's a sign that Bitcoin has turned bearish, right? So 20,000 has turned from support to the resistance now. Right, so that could be the next level to watch out for now if price makes a bounce to the upside, right? I'm not sure whether it will actually break past this for further upside, and we have to watch to see that if price will actually touch this level in time to come, right? But that's the level to watch out for, right? If price makes a bounce to the upside. All right, MACD, right? If you look at the MACD on this short-term time frame, right, it is slightly positive, like very, very slight, right? But nevertheless, that is still positive, right? It's still a positive sign that it might be turning bullish, right? But of course, we need more confirmation, right? If this continues and the gap continues to widen, right, it becomes more positive, then that might be a confirmation to go long, at least for the short term. So taking into account all these, what I mentioned in total, right, these 8 things that I mentioned, right, what can we plan out, right? What can we plan out as a trading plan? Right, on this note, right, just like to mention once again, right, please do your own due diligence, right? Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies are very volatile at the moment, right? So do trade with caution. So first of all, right, if you're considering a long entry, right, you can enter a long position, right, which means to buy at a low price, sell at a high price, right? If that short-term downtrend line, right, this short-term downtrend line on the 4-hour time scale actually breaks convincingly, right, and the price remains supported by that immediate support level that I joined just now at about 18,800, right? So with that, right, you can have multiple take profit prices, right? First one will be at what, at 20K, 20,000, right, that I mentioned just now, at immediate resistance level. Second take profit will be at that longer term downtrend line on the daily chart, right? We go back and see that daily chart, right? That I drew just now, right? That downtrend line, right? That could be the second take profit price. The third take profit price could be at that first horizontal resistance level at 28,000 on the daily chart, right? But of course, as we all trades, we have to set a cut loss price, and that cut loss price can be set slightly below 18,800, right? Not exactly at it, but to give it some room to breathe, right? But maybe slightly below in case it actually makes a fake breakdown. On the other hand, right, you could also make a short entry, right? If let's say Bitcoin continues to make a move down, right? So you could enter a short position, right? If price breaks that immediate support at 18,800 very convincingly, and price is actually resisted, right? Convincingly resisted by this short-term downtrend line, right? So that basically means the price tries to break past it, but it fears to break past it, right? And we can, take profit, right, for that short entry, right, at the first horizontal support on about 17,600 on the daily chart, right? That was drawn earlier, right? You can go back and see, right? And we can cut loss slightly above, right, that short-term downtrend line, which is drawn here, right? Can cut loss slightly above it, right? If you're considering a short entry. Okay, so that actually concludes my analysis of Bitcoin. So basically, what I'm suggesting here is that there could be a case for both a buy for Bitcoin or a sell for Bitcoin. Right? We got to see confirmation signals, right? That would in the next few time frame, right? Either for next few hours, right, or the next few days, right? Right. So at this point, right, I'd like to urge all of you, right, if you have found value in my sharing so far, right, don't forget to give this video a like or a love, right, so that Facebook can push it out more people, and more people around you can benefit from my sharing tonight. Right, and before I end off today's session, right, just some other reminders down here, right. If you haven't joined me already, right, you can consider joining my Facebook group, right, at tte.the.trade.engineer, right. In my Facebook group, I'll be sharing not just about cryptocurrency, but also the things related to trading, right, including stocks, futures, and some other resources that I use. I'll also place it there in my Facebook group. But do take note that you have to answer the membership questions before applying. And for those of you who haven't followed me already, you can consider following me on my social media pages, right? My Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok channel. Right, and if you like my sharing for tonight, once again, right, urge all of you to actually click that like or love button. Right, and also do leave a comment, right, or even share this video so that more people can benefit from my sharing tonight. And last but not least, right, if you are following me already, you probably know that I do this every week, right, every Sunday as well, right, and I do this together with my good friend, right, Financial Missy, right. Basically, we do this every week, every Sunday at 4 p.m. And we talk about stocks, like US stocks, right. We pick a US stock every week to talk about it in depth. So if you're interested, right, and if you are doing stock trading or stock investing, right, you might also want to tune in, right, on every Sunday at 4 p.m. Right, you'll be either on my page or Financial Missy Facebook page, right. So you can check out our pages, right, for our Facebook Live at that time, right, every Sunday 4 p.m. Right, and with that, I've come to the end of today's session. Right, I hope all you have gleaned something useful from this session. Right, and hope this will give you a good direction of how the crypto market might be panning out in the near future. Right. So once again, I like to urge all of you to stay safe, be cautious, and do not take unnecessary risks, right? Especially in this current time of market volatility. Right. So here's wishing all of you the best of luck, right, in the upcoming week, and hope all of you will earn, manage to make some money out of this market volatility, right? All right, and with that, right, we'll end the session for tonight. Good night, everyone, and have a good week ahead. See you.